with ad sets as opposed to campaigns. I'm not sure, but we definitely need to have something to test, because our winning stuff is just winning and taking everything.
Scooping everything up.
Yeah.
No, that's a good thing. And when you do start testing, like say ad set versus ad set, which you guys are running into ManyChat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember if you might not have been on the call. So because you can't do dynamic creative testing when running into ManyChat or running into Messenger, I just do the testing inside the current winning ad set. So I'll use dynamic copy. You know how you can do the plus headline plus copy, etc.
Okay.
So, depending, let's say you wanted to do a copy test next, you could take the current winning ad, duplicate it, leave the copy that's winning in it, and then add your new copies underneath it, and then use the breakdown function next to the columns bit at the top to see which copy is sucking up the spend. Because the way Facebook will allocate spend is obviously based on what it feels is going to give the best user experience. So for a new test or new ad to start earning spend in the account, it needs to show that it's got like significantly better than what's currently there. So if it's not sucking up spend or not earning spend versus the current, it's because in Facebook's eyes, it's not as good.
Yeah.
So that way, if we do the dynamic copy testing, and then if you want to do creative, you would do a similar thing where you would duplicate the ad, but then just change the creative versus the copy and keep the copy the same, etc. I've just found outside of doing the dynamic creative testing, because initially I was doing the split ad set for the testing, as that's what I learned with dynamic copy, dynamic creatives. But because you can't do dynamic creatives with Messenger that's weird. It's like a little, did you see that little bubble pop up?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. Maybe Zoom likes what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But rather than splitting the ad sets, because the only reason you do that for dynamic creative is because you can only run one ad in a dynamic creative ad set. So you would do that to batch test a bunch of different creatives to find your winning creative and then move it into the winning ad set. Because we're not doing that, because we can't use dynamic creative, we can just test inside the winning ad set and then just use other ad sets for audience testing.
Okay, perfect. And so currently have two kind of winning ads. Would I put them in one ad set, or no, just keep them in separate ones and test the dynamic copy within one of those ad sets?
What's the difference between the ad sets and the ads?
They're quite different. One is a video. They're like the copy is totally different. The headlines are different. One's a video. One is a still. They're quite different.
Yep. And is the audience the same for the ad sets, both broad or?
Yeah, both broad.
So what you'd want to do probably if you want to consolidate it into the one ad set is just pick one and then duplicate one into the other ad set, and then wait for it to pick up spend. And then if the results are comparable between the one that was existing and the one that is now in the new ad set, just switch the old one off to consolidate into that one ad set. And then ideally that winning ad set will have 4 to 6 winning ads that are serving eventually those various functions of the funnel, ones that are prospecting, ones that are retargeting, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you want to split out by a different audience, you just duplicate the winning ad set, and maybe if you want to do a lookalike audience or anything else.
Oh yeah, test again.
But eventually you will get to the point, even when spending tens of thousands of dollars a week on ads, where you maybe spend an hour a week working on it.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And that's hard for me. And don't get me wrong, we're on the opposite side of things now, where we had to change things all the time, and I had to be like doing this and that and finding things all the time. So it's just so weird now that like I don't have that, and I think that's just a mentality thing.
And as you scale the budget, things will start to obviously shift again, and you will probably go into a mode where, okay, shit, I've got to get some more ads out and do a bit more work, because my current ads, I've stretched that budget as high as I can and the results are starting to taper off. So I need to bolster out this ad account further. But while it's performing, while the things are working, just keep steadily bumping it, as long as you can handle the sales flow.
Yeah. That is that's a good problem to be coming into. So I'm not doing campaigns then. It's just ad sets. It's not like winning campaign versus testing campaign.
No, I wouldn't do that, because the campaign, they won't feed off each other's data, so it's hard to tell which one is actually winning versus the other one.
Yeah.
I only split campaigns out by objective or offer, or country.
Yeah.
So like you've got the Irish campaign and the Aussie campaign, good split. If you say ran a different sales flow that wasn't going into ManyChat, and you ran I don't know, an ebook download one or a workshop or a challenge, you'd split that into a different campaign. But that would be
retargeting or something. Would it be a different? Okay.
But if you're doing everything else well, you don't necessarily even need retargeting. But it looks like maybe either the time zone, the time changes thrown a few people, or the day switch has thrown a few people, because Shauna said she'd be on as well. But that's all right. We can that gives us extra time to delve into your stuff. And then I'll run through this, because obviously it's live in the group at the moment. I'll run through this sales slide, and then any bits of it that are possibly relatable to you, just jump in and ask, obviously, because it's just you and I at the moment. And so these are some of the things that are just have worked for me from a sales side of things, to not only speed up sales cycles, but take a lot less stress off sales cycles, increase conversion rates, and I guess kind of play into my personality as well, in terms of not necessarily being a forceful or aggressive seller. So take anything with a pinch of salt, because it might not necessarily apply, but if there's bits of it that apply, obviously we can workshop it. So the premise of this, which for you, Amanda, works because you've got a message that's working in market now. You've got something that's bringing in the right leads. You've got your messaging flow. I used to do this via outbound calling. And the key, I'll break down each component as we go, but I didn't put any slides in for this one. I should have, but obviously the main thing that we're trying to do in the message is qualify and establish a degree of a gap so we can get them into a call. Something that I found, I dug up some of my old scripts and stuff from back in the fitness days. And I found a good question in there that I used to use that worked quite well to financially qualify, where that wasn't like the, are you willing to invest in yourself type question? Because obviously that scares a lot of people and is quite direct. So I used to do this over the phone and via message. So it worked in both, but I wasn't using ManyChat at the time. I would always ask, say I was talking to you, I'd be like, so Amanda, what do you do for work now? Is it a desk job or are you active? So that way I'm finding out if they're working, but I'm disguising it as like I'm trying to find their activity levels. So that way I can financially qualify, because then they'll come back and say, oh, I'm not working right now. I'm like, oh, okay, shit. Then I can go a bit more direct with like, you know, if you were to find the right opportunity to help you achieve these results, are you willing to invest in that, etc.? Because I want to disqualify them at that point. But if they said they are working and stuff, now I know, okay, well, probably they're going to be financially qualified without scaring them off. That's the primary objective, obviously, there. Then we use transition bridges, blah, 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 blah. So I'll run through each step and each stage. So consider this like your ManyChat flow. And Sean is actually using a form of a transition bridge, which was good to see. But the first thing that really helped me in sales and still helps me today is kind of this mindset of an open door policy that underpins the way I sell, meaning I always provide the prospect with the option to exit. So every stage or next step that someone's going to go through in the sales process, I never try and force that step. I'm always like, this is the next step, etc. But here's the door if you exit. So that way there's no resistance around it, but they also feel that detachment from pushing them to the next step. Whereas obviously a lot of people are like, so let's get a meeting booked and we'll set that up for this time, and they try and anytime someone tries to get out of that meeting, they're like trying to objection handle and loop them around and stuff like that. So I've always had this mentality of wanting to let the prospect guide themselves through the process and me just kind of like shine the light on the next step in front of them. So an example of that, when I was doing those outbound calls, my next step would be into the transition bridge, which you can build into ManyChat. Sean has built that in there. But rather than saying like, so I need you to watch this video, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I'd say, well, John, I'm going to give you this workshop that will go through the entire process. So whatever it's relating to, if it's like, we'll show you how we help women lose 10 kilos in 90 days or whatever, and how that works. And then if that resonates with you, let's continue the chat from there. But if it doesn't, just let me know, and we won't waste anyone's time jumping on a further call or any further conversations, whatever's relevant. Sound good? And every time I'd get people, I'd also turn into a bit of a joke sometimes as well. So like one of the guys I was selling for, Jay, who I'd say something like, so go through the workshop, you'll get an idea of how Jay works and the sort of philosophies and processes that he'll take you through. And if it resonates, great. But if it doesn't, and I totally get it if it doesn't, because Jay's pretty intense, he's not for everyone, just let me know so I can take you off our list and we won't waste anyone's time. Sound good? And I always found that because of that detachment side of things, people would be more inclined to actually do what I would say. I
think it's on Facebook. I think maybe it's on Facebook. Maybe somebody's like given a thumbs up on Facebook or something.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe that's actually a good shout. It's probably some people watching in the group. So that this open door policy, I think, really helped me, at least in my personality, because as I said, I always got really uncomfortable. When I first started in sales, I was given scripts that were like, don't let them off the phone until they say yes, and and I always just felt slimy and really uncomfortable doing that. So the open door policy kind of helped. And even with closing as well, if someone showed me red flags or concerns, like whether it was around their time or this or that, I wouldn't try and placate, or, obviously some salespeople will lie and be like, oh, John, if you've got no time, don't worry, this won't take any time at all. It's only going to take you like 10 minutes a day and blah, blah, blah. I'll do the opposite and do something like, John, your schedule's sounds pretty stretched right now. I honestly don't know if you'll have enough time to get results. Based on what we've discussed, would you be able to find the time to commit to what we've gone through, or the minimum commitments, etc.? So that way, again, we're just opening that door and saying, hey, like, if you can't do this, walk out. And I found prospects respect you a lot more for it. Plus it gives like that, treat them mean, keep them keen type thing, where you're pushing them away. Just like in the dating scene, if you push someone away, the more they want you type thing. I don't know if that's a thing on the girls' side, but apparently for guys, if you push women away, they want you more, or they chase you more. So that's the sort of mentality that I've always had from a sales side, and that underpins this process, because it's based on getting the prospect's buy-in to move to each stage versus pushing the prospect to each stage. So then we can use a thing like a transition bridge. So what that essentially means is, once you've established that there's a degree of a gap, So when you're going through the ManyChat flow, obviously it's hard to widen that gap and make, spend all day digging and trying to find out what their biggest pains and desires are. But then going on to a sales calls can really blow out if you haven't dug into some sort of deep gap earlier on in the process. So when you're going through the ManyChat flow, something you could introduce, which some of the guys have, I know James does it, and as I said, Shauna does it, I think a few others are doing it as well, is having like a training video of some sort, that when, like, potentially after, however your flow's running, like potentially after when you get the height and weight or something like that. I screenshotted Shauna's yesterday because it was a good one. She flows into from after she gets the height and weight, then she offers the video that's like, what's the title? Discover how you can lose 20 to 40 pounds in as little as 12 weeks guaranteed. So that's a form of a transition bridge where it aims to motivate the change and inspire the person to expand the gap. So how I used to use this was, I would do that initial outbound call, and I wouldn't even book the pitch. I would just get them to commit to watching this. So go through, if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, blah, blah, blah. So you could even tie that messaging into the ManyChat flow, where you go something like, in this training, you'll learn how to do this, how to go from X to X, based on obviously the desire of what the ad was appealing to. If this resonates, then great. We can obviously continue the conversation. If it doesn't, please let us know below so that we don't waste anyone's time or something like that.
So can I just ask a question on that? Is that before we kind of even get talking to them? That's like, straight on the bat, like after, like you said, after the height and weight, and it kind of then distinguishes if, okay, I'm actually keen for this and might cut out the idea of, because what we've definitely seen a lot of is people say, click and get started. They'll even put in their height and weight, etc. And then we reach out to them after that and nothing.
Yeah.
So would it be like before we even reach out? So like it would be part of the ManyChat flow to be like height and weight. Okay, here's a video on how to gain confidence without giving up chocolate. I'm just giving you something random. And it's a video. And then there would be then the next part to like maybe a little message under it. If this resonates with you, great. If not, and then we would get into the conversation. Yeah,
exactly. So I screen grabbed Shauna's because I was hoping she'd be on to discuss it with her, but it's a good flow, right? Where and a conversion rate is pretty good across the board. But where she could potentially say improve this, where this is acting as a form of a transition bridge, then she could, in the meantime, I recently ran this short workshop explaining how you can love your body again, or explaining the Love Your Body Again blueprint system. If it resonates, or I like this line actually, put that in there. The only thing I would add for this after these bits would potentially be, if this resonates with you, great, book a call with our team or we'll pick up the conversation. But if it doesn't, please let us know so we don't waste anyone's time. So it gives that open door option. Then watch the video. So then your next question can be based around, hey, Sally, just jumped online. How'd you get on with the training, or how'd you get on with the Love Your Body workshop, or whatever you've called it? So that way you can test how engaged they are straight off the bat. Because if you know that they've watched it, there's a degree of seriousness. If you know that they haven't watched it, and you could test this because obviously it's going to be different in every niche. So test it out. But if they haven't watched it, you could continue the conversation, but you could circle it back to, okay, great. Well, I'd highly recommend you go through that workshop. It goes for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, etc. so that you get an understanding of how the process works and how we work with our women. If that resonates with you, great. We can obviously book a time in to have a chat. If it doesn't, then just let us know, and we obviously won't waste anyone's time.
Question. So would you give something free here like that? Or could you like use a testimonial video for something like this? Or is that too kind of salesy and pushy? And like the type of testimonial videos that I have are really like, they're not like, oh, I lost 12 pounds in 12 weeks, blah, blah, blah. They're like, I changed how I felt about my body. I didn't think this process was going to work for me, and here I am 12 months later. Like, what would you think? Like, would that be too salesy, or do you think you have to give something for free?
It has to have intention. So we do want it to, the objective of the transition bridge is to widen the gap, so help them see what's possible. So testimonials are a way of doing that. So we can bake testimonials in there, but we also want to present the logical case as to why our process works.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Essentially, we want them to go, because as the old saying goes, says here, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. So as soon as you start trying to sell someone, that's when their walls go up and they switch off. But by having these transition bridges in place, what you're able to do is essentially allow them to be sold in their own environment, where so they're not talking to you, that's not pressure or anything like that. They're getting educated along the way. So we want to take them from this spot where they're skeptical, fearful, defensive, uneducated, etc., to over here where they feel empowered about making a decision about moving forward with their lives. Testimonials is a great way to do that. So you bake them into the process. So say your process is a 6-step process. So normally how one of these videos would flow is like the first few minutes would just be a little bit about your backstory, a little bit about the business. Hi, I'm Amanda. Here I was here, and I transformed my life to here. Since then, we've worked with 500 women that have been able to do the same thing, et cetera, et cetera. And in this training, I'm going to be walking you through the 4 steps we used to transform those 500 women's lives, or blah, blah, blah. Step 1 is we go through this, et cetera, et cetera. Then after step 1, you might put a testimonial in and be like, and that's exactly what we did with Jessie. She went from X to X, Let's have a listen to Jessie, or you can put a video in or just a screen grab, whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. Step 2 is this, step 3 is this. So that by the time they get to the sales call, and this is, I guess, quite advanced in terms of, so the sales process has to be relatively well established at this point to introduce this sort of stuff. But once you get to the sales call, the idea is then that they know how the process works. They ideally have seen testimonials that will resonate with them. So by the time you're on the sales call, when I was doing this, I was able to take sales calls time lengths down from 90 minutes to about 20 to 30 minutes. So we're able to get way more calls in, because every time I got someone to consume this, think our average conversion rate after, and the one we had was 3 hours. So I don't recommend making one for 3 hours.
Oh, wow. I couldn't do that to myself. I wouldn't be able.
Yeah, I think you'd go crazy. But yeah, if you can consolidate it to like 15 to 20, 25 minutes max, maybe 30 at a stretch.
Yeah.
The conversion rates will go up quite significantly from a time perspective. Now, to preface for people watching in the live, if you're really early in the journey and you're still not getting the volume, so you haven't solved this bit yet, the offer in market, then this stuff's not super relevant. But if you have solved this equation and now you're potentially trying to increase budget, but you're trying to manage your time around sales and make sure that you can bring the volume in and bring better clients in. I found not only the conversion rates, once you get someone to go through a transition bridge, shoot up quite high, but the retention rate goes up quite high as well, because they're coming in under a pretense where, like this happy person over here, they're feeling confident and empowered to come into the next conversation with you, versus scared and worried that you're going to pitch them and try and sell them. So the objectives that we're trying to achieve throughout this is, firstly, that they understand the process, so they know generally how you would work with someone. Put testimonials in there so they're inspired, they're confident that they're going to get results. Guarantees can be a part of that. I like to give the minimal investment, just because I find it easier for when people do know the price prior to coming on. Now, if you're early in the journey and you just need to get people on the phones because you haven't refined your process enough yet, then sometimes it can be better to keep that to yourself. But I like to at least let them know the minimal investment. So something you could bake into the transition bridge would be like, now we have clients working with us from anywhere from $50 a week through to $200+ a week, depending on the level of service they need. But we tailor every plan to suit each individual and their situation. So now they might not know the extent of your high ticket, but they know at least what the minimum payment option is. So they know, okay, if I'm going to have a conversation with this lady, then I've got to be willing to potentially at least invest $50 a week. And then they know what's required from them. So obviously understand the process, they'll know what's there. So the aim of this is, again, to remove time wasting elements of the sales process, which is speaking to unqualified prospects, dealing with time wasters, all that sort of stuff, but also to lower sales resistance for the good prospects that want to come through. So there's some examples of what you could do, but before I'll ask you if you've got any questions on this, but something that I found that was really useful as well is consolation offers. So what that would essentially mean is, if this doesn't resonate with you, we'll still give you a free 12-week plan or a free meal guide, so you can at least get started on your journey. So that way, they're motivated to actually go through the transition bridge, because even if they don't like it and they don't like you for whatever reason, they're still going to get this small component. I think Abram at some point, I'm not sure if he still does it now, but he was just giving his ebook away for free as a part of, so if they go through the process, put an application in and it's not for them, they'll still get his ebook to help them on their journey. So that way it's like, sorry, we can't help you, but here's something else to keep the goodwill, keep them in the nurturing sequence. Do you have any questions off that before I go into the next section?
No, that makes total sense. Yeah. Anything
that's relevant to you, do you think, or?
I think that this is a great idea. I think, to be honest, in general, this has been a bottleneck for us. And I had put it in, or Brian had put it in on Tuesday, I think. And I know that you and Dan had given, I think it was you and Dan had given like feedback on some of the ways to change our script. But I actually think something like this would be even more beneficial than changing the script up. I think that, well, we have changed the script anyway, but I think that this would be really, really, really helpful.
Yeah, from what I found, like, because I'm not a natural salesperson. Like, everything I've learned in sales has been self-taught and learned through grueling hours of being on phone calls. I shared with the guys in Bali that my longest sales call went for 6 hours once. That was intense. But after that, I sat down and actually like re-listened to that call, which took ages, obviously. But I was like, how did this end up blowing out so much? Because at the end of the day, as you know, when you're in sales, time is money. The more good people you can speak to, I won't say more people, the more sales you can make, the more obviously the more dollars come in. So I looked at areas where I was like, okay, well, what was I not doing that was making these calls blow out further? And it was things like not pre-framing things well enough, not using directional questioning, etc., and rushing to the pitch almost, so that then I was just bombarded with objection after objection after objection. And I hated handling objections. Everyone hates handling objections because it just gets uncomfortable and awkward at times. Some people love it, but I wanted to find ways where I could pre-handle as many objections as possible. And this was one of the things that I introduced, because I figured, well, rather than wasting 30 minutes on a call explaining how the process works and et cetera, et cetera. Why don't I just give them all that information before we get to the call, so that then I can just discuss what actually resonates with them. So when my first question out of the bat after I introduced this into the sales process was always, so whatever the workshop was. So John, based on the workshop, what things really stood out to you? What resonated with you most? And then they would say one or two key things out of the whole thing. So obviously not everyone appeals to the whole thing. Like, I really loved Jeffrey's testimonial, or I really loved that you make this part of the process really simple, etc. Okay, well, what about the simplicity in that part of the process resonated with you, or what do you mean by that? And I'd probe deeper, because now I know that rather than talking about everything and wasting a bunch of time on stuff that they don't care about, I've isolated the couple of things that they do care about, and then I just drive deep on those things and why they care about them. So then when it comes to transit like that, so that's all your discovery, going into why did that resonate with you, blah, 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 blah. Transitioning into discussing the process, you can sort of recap it. Most people did want to recap, that I found. So I'd say, like, so John, obviously you've been through the training, you've probably got a pretty good understanding of the process, but did you just want me to give a quick recap, or did you have any questions about how things worked? And most people would say, oh, can you just give me a quick recap on how it works? And I just bang through it in like a minute. So the first step, as you saw, was this. Second step, third step, and then I would tailor it based on what they had said in the discovery, or in the early part of the call, as to what resonated with them. So if I knew that simplicity was something that really stood out to them, I would tailor that into how I explain the process. So with Jay, for example, one of the guys I was selling for, I would say, if simplicity was something, which was something that popped up quite a lot. So I'd say, and Jay's a great business operator, but to be honest, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's not the smartest guy, and to make it a bit of a joke. So he's structured everything extremely simple, step by step by step, so that he doesn't have to think, so that you guys don't have to think as well. So I would always tie it back to what they've told me they want, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And question, I would presume the answer to this is going to be yes, but like with that, they obviously more or less know everything, and they either resonate or they don't. And obviously the steps after that, or they didn't watch it, etc. But if they resonated and they watched it, next step would just be book a call, right? I don't need to go through much more like of a conversation with them. I'm just, right, it resonated with you, let's book a call. Yeah,
so the first part of your mini chat flow will qualify or disqualify. So I would probably recommend introducing in just the automated flow, that question I mentioned at the start. There would be something around like, and Sally, what are you doing for work right now? Is it active, or do you find yourself sitting behind a desk? And they can just type an answer to that. So then you can see if they are working or not working. So then when you jump into the DM flow, and you can have like on the, so when they will go to watch the video, go to the page, you can have a booking link on the page. So you will still get automated bookings popping through that way. But if you say get into the DM flow and you scroll and check their answers and they're like, I'm not working, then you can jump to the point straight away around like the financial qualifications. But yeah, if they've watched it, moved through, resonated, then you can just jump in and straight book a call.
Is it too late, do you reckon, to like get that information when Brian gets on the call? So Brian does all our sales calls, FYI. But do you think that it's too late at that point? If like, because I really like that. I think that's actually a lovely question. But it's probably a little bit too late by the time Brian actually gets on the call to do that, isn't it?
Again, it's it'd be based on volume. Like, so for me at the time, when I implemented all this stuff with Jay, I was the only salesperson, and I wanted to obviously drive my commissions up as high as possible, and not waste a ton of time. 100%. So I was able to get my comms up to like 15, 20K a week at a 10% comm rate. just me selling, because I would do an outbound call initially. So, but that's basically like your initial mini chat flow. And it'd be something along the lines of like, so this was when we did implemented this stuff, it was for an offer similar to FitPro. So I'd say something like, hey, John, this was Sam calling from JP and Coaching. We want to say like, just a quick call as we saw that you responded to one of the ads recently about taking your fitness business online. Is going online with your business something you're serious about? So it was pretty direct, straight out the gate. And then I'd go into, okay, cool. So how's the business going right now? How many clients are you currently working with? So that's my way to financially qualify them, because I want to find out how many clients they've got. Because if they've got 0, I'm like, okay, this guy's probably not got an income. Then I need to ask him, okay, so what are you doing for income while you don't have clients? If he's got 50 clients, I'm like, okay, this guy's probably got good income. So if we related that to the fitness side, so in the many, I would like to have that question, if it was me personally, in the ManyChat flow, because that way I can save Brian's time of getting on the phone with someone that's not financially qualified.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, that's fair.
But then that sort of flows into this next point around declared intent follow-up. So as you said, like once someone's been through the ManyChat flow, they've ticked financial box, you probably couldn't partner qualify in there. You probably have to partner qualify either on the call.
On the call.
Yeah. I used to partner qualify on the outbound call, but could you do it in the many? I'll have a think on it if it could fit in the ManyChat flow, but I think it might deter people.
I think so as well. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah. The only way would be if you baked it into the transition, like the video, and said something along the lines of like, and if your partner is supportive of you on this journey, make sure they watch this video as well, so they understand what you're going through.
I like that. I like that.
So how I used to do it on the phone calls was I get everything ticked off. So I'd tick the finance box, understand the situation, tick the finance box, get them committed to going through the transition bridge. And then I'd say as well, I was like wrapping up the call, I'd say, and just quickly, John, is there anyone else that might be involved in your journey to growing this business or on your health journey that may also benefit from watching this training? So that way I can, and then they go, oh, I've got a business partner, or my wife, she's involved in things, etc. So it's still kind of disguised as a way of like, is there anyone else involved in this journey? Not around, is anyone else going to make this decision with you? But then I could find out if there was anyone else in and around that. So then I could make sure that partner also watched the video.
Yeah.
But then once they've watched it, you go into the declared intent follow-up. So the big mistake I see a lot of people make with follow-up, and that's across the board, not just in this community, but even big companies. Like I hate salespeople from big companies because they seem to have the worst training, even though they're at big companies, and they just follow you up out of the blue randomly. They're like, oh, hey Sam, just checking in, how are things going? Are you ready to move forward yet? Okay, I'll call you again soon. And they'll leave voicemail after voicemail and email after email. It's just annoying, annoying sales practices. So declared intent follow-up, or that's just a label I've put on it to make it make sense, but essentially means getting a commitment at the end of every follow-up stage. So, for example, if you have that message block to watch the training, the commitment is that they're going to watch the training, and you would say, and we'll touch base with you when we're next online. So that way there is a set next step, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when you get into if you get the sales process going really well, so I got it to a point where I didn't want to basically speak to anyone that hadn't been through that video. Hey, Johnny. So I would always, if someone hadn't watched the video, I would just send them back to it. I wouldn't try and book a call or anything like that. That's, again, that's because I was really picky and I wanted my sales process to be really streamlined. But test that and make sure you've got enough volume coming through to obviously be that picky. But if someone would say, yeah, I can get that watched by Friday, and then I touch base with them on Friday and they haven't watched it, I would then say, okay, when can you get that done over the weekend? So if I call you on Monday, you will have been able to view it. And if they say yes, I basically give them 3 strikes. So if they still hadn't done it the second time, I'd give them 1 more chance, and then I'd piss them off, get them off the line, because I'd prioritize time. So I'd start with a message, then I'd do calls. But how you could tie that into your guys' process is the initial outreach message could be along the lines of, hey, Sally, just got online. How'd you go with the workshop, whatever you've named it? Then she might say, oh, I haven't watched it yet. And you could try and go for the booking from there. But if you wanted to be really choosy and picky, because you've got heaps of volume coming through, you could say, okay, that's not a problem. When do you think you could get that done by? Say it was Wednesday, then you might say Friday, ? So then you just focused on getting their commitment to consume that. And then if they don't do it, you don't bother booking them in for a call, because in my experience, 9 times out of 10, if someone's not willing to complete, like watch a 15-minute video or something like that, their willingness to spend 2, 3, 4 grand on a service is probably low. So.
And question, say the people that are kind of like ghosting you, are you just as well to just give up on them? Like, are they're gone and there's no point? Like, we would definitely try to reach out to the people that like haven't really responded back to things, but are we just wasting time?
Depends where in the process. So I never really got ghosted, minimally. And if I did get ghosted, I would normally send something like this. It'd be like, hey, John, haven't heard from you in a while. Not sure if you managed to go through the training. Where do we go from here? And then if they don't respond to that, then they're off the list.
Yeah.
Because I never found myself in a state of desperation in sales, which was sometimes frustrated some of the people that I worked for, because they took my lack of desperation as a sign that I didn't care.
Yeah.
But then when I'd just say, like, just watch, and then the results kind of talk for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any form of desperation, I always kind of, I guess I thought of it always like dating. So when I was like 18, 19, I went through a breakup with like my high school sweetheart that we'd been together for like 2 years or something. And I wasn't very good with women, and going out and about, and I was always nervous to talk to girls and all that sort of stuff. So I read all these books on like how to talk to chicks and how to talk to women and all that sort of stuff. And one of the big things that it always reiterated was, don't be desperate. You are the prize. Don't chase, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of that I just applied to sales, because I was like, well, it worked when I was trying to get girls, so maybe it'll work over here. So all of that mentality just kind of drilled in. As I said, I'm obviously not a girl chasing men, so I don't know if the same applies on the other side. But I found speaking to guys in a sales context, I've found that does work with guys as well. But especially with women, I've found that if you not that you're rude to them and you're not like an asshole, but if you're not like at their beck and call and they're sending 1-word answers and you're sending big essays and all that sort of stuff, then you tend to get a more favorable response than being like the needy, clingy guy that's chasing them around, and then they're like, see your messages and they're like, oh fuck, not this guy again.
But I can even relate to it in like my DMs. Do you know what I mean? Like people reaching out to me being like, I can get you X, Y, and Z. And like then follow up being like, did you get my last message? Follow up. Like, if I didn't respond to the first thing, like I'm not very likely to respond to the next. You've not made it interesting enough for me. So, and I've always said that I really don't want to be that person, but I do think that we are at times. And like you said there, it shouldn't be like a desperation for sales, but I think we're just trying to really exhaust avenues that aren't even open, to be honest. So that's why I was just interested about that one.
And it's human nature in a way. I don't know why, but we seem to think that the more we say, the more chance we have of convincing someone of our opinion. And that's why you see like, it goes in everywhere, not just dating and stuff, but you look at it in the political side as well. And you see people ranting online about, whether it's vaccines or Donald Trump or this or that. And they feel like the more they speak and the more they say and the more they yell at you and try and get you to understand their point, the more chance they have of convincing you that you're wrong. But the more they try and do that, the walls just go up and you're just like, oh, fuck, shut up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. That's actually such a good point. I think, and that's why I wanted to ask about the testimonials there as well, because like, I know that sometimes the more I'm saying it, the more it's just like, oh yeah, like she says this to everybody. Like I know this program is fucking for you, excuse my language. So that's why I feel like when using a testimonial, I'm not telling you, like, listen to what they've said, but I suppose it's still the same idea. Like it's still, right, I'm not saying it, but somebody else is saying it, but it's still trying to push the information on somebody.
Yeah, and even if you just convey it in a way that's more just focused around the story and the transformation. And if they said something like, I don't know, I'd recommend Amanda to any of my friends or something like that at the end of it, it's not the end of the world. But if they're on there being like, oh my God, every woman needs to do this. I've changed myself so much. This process is amazing. You can tell it's kind of forced in a way, but the more genuine stories when people, and that's why I find like the more polished testimonials can sometimes be worse. But when it's someone that's just like this quiet little lady that's like, I started working with Amanda 6 weeks ago, and in that time I've been able to do this and etc. It's more relatable and it's more real. It doesn't sound forced or scripted or anything like that.
Yeah. So what I've started doing with my testimonials, actually, they're not actually really testimonials. So I do coaching calls each week, and once a month, I ask one of the current clients just to share her story. Like it's just sharing the story to the group. And I've really found that comes across like just so much more natural. She's just telling the story. It has nothing, it's not like, oh, who would you recommend this program to? It's none of that. It's literally just, this is what happened to me. This is where I'm at. Like, and it does come across really nicely. But I still think it's probably the same idea. It is kind of like maybe being a little bit like, here in your face, watch this testimonial, and it's probably a little bit too much.
I'd still bake it into like a transition bridge.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It'll work in that. I think it'll work really well in that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
By the way.
The different like when someone's in the safety of their own home and they're just watching a video, they're more likely to be sold, right? Like Alex, I don't know if you call Alex Hormozi's $100 million leads launch, but that was like a masterclass of a transition bridge. So he built up, and not that it needs to be that long, but he built up all this hype at the start of the training, and then showed value. He showed the process, and then earned the trust. And then obviously he did the pitch at the end of the thing. So you'd be doing the pitch on the call, not at the end. So your just pitch would be, have a chat with our team, see how this would work for you, etc. But the way that he communicated and shared stories and testimonials and things in that was perfect in terms of like, it's not, people wanted to be sold by him on that call. And that's kind of what if you've been through good webinars or good structured ones like that, you feel less like you're being forced through, but more like you're being inspired through. And that's kind of the objective you want to get. Because you could say the same thing to someone on a call and they're like, oh, this person's just trying to sell me. But then they watch the same thing in a video and they like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because they're less emotional because you're not in a conversation.
Yeah.
So the last thing, or the last part of the process that I normally do before someone jumps on a call, so this will be after they've booked the call. So they've watched the transition bridge, you've gone through and they've said, yeah, this, I like the look of your process. This resonates with me. I'd love to have a further chat. Cool. Let's book that time in. Let's say today's Thursday. Let's have a chat tomorrow at, I don't know, 5 o'clock or whatever. Just before we have that call, could you please just fill out this short questionnaire just so I have some context, and then you just get a little bit more information. Or you could say, I'm just going to give you this information to review if you've got anything else you want them to look at. It doesn't necessarily matter what you give them, but it's more just giving them a small task, not something that's a big ask, because we want to increase the buyer engagement coming into the conversation. So the objective of the transition bridge is to give them more inspiration, more solutions around what it is they want to solve, because they've come into the ad because they want to solve a problem. So it's not like we're asking them to do stuff for us. This is all for them. So once they've booked the call, we give them a small task to say, this will just help me prepare your plan or get your strategy together or something like that. So we put it back on them like, hey, this is for you. Whether it's maybe 4 questions around their current diet habits or their current activity levels or something like that. But we just want to frame it that it's for them. So it's a modality that, I don't know if this is a real thing, but I just call it this, collaborative selling. So I was initially always taught consultative selling, where you're kind of like a doctor, which it still takes in this sense, but consultative selling kind of takes on the premise that I'll ask you a bunch of questions, you'll give me a bunch of answers, then I'll tell you what to do. Collaborative selling is more based on like, hey, let's work together to find you the best solution that's going to help you get to why. So by giving them small tasks to do just before the call, we test their engagement, but we also get more emotional buy-in from them as well, especially if you have questions in there, or a question that's like, how could you phrase it? Something like, in a perfect world, what would your health journey look like? Or depending on what your offer is, what would your ideal weight be? What would your ideal energy levels be? Obviously, you drive that into your niche, but get them painting pictures around what that perfect world looks like. So when you jump on the call, you're like, so Amanda, you said here that you're looking to drop 50 pounds or 50 kilos, and you just want to spend more time with the kids again, and just tell me a little bit more about that. How long have you been trying to drop the 50 kilos, etc. So now the entire pitch can now then be just centered around all the information that's being gathered in the process prior. And that's when you can consolidate pitches to 20 to 30 minutes, because all you're talking about is them. And you talk about your process for maybe like 5 minutes. And for me, I found that just works in high ticket sales, like anything above $1,000, because in my experience, and for me personally, anything that's more than $1,000, I'll generally do a degree of research prior to investing in it. Buying a new computer, even buying small shit, but I'm a bit of a stinge sometimes, but even just spending like $50, $100, I'll Google something and I want to do a little bit of research. I want to watch videos. So like I just bought a new Mac power thing to power these 2 screens that are running. And that was, I don't know, it was like $2,500 or something. And I spent like 3 weeks watching YouTube videos and seeing how much RAM do I need and how much CPU should I get and what's going to be the best. Because I think if I'm going to spend $2,000 or $2.5 grand, $3,000, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right thing, the thing that's right for me. So this process kind of works on that premise of like, we give them the video because they're trying to find a solution for them. This video is going to tell them about not only how they can achieve the results, but the process that we take them through, or we would take them through. The task gives them something small to fill out so that we get a better understanding of what they want, so that we can tailor the system and process for them. So that, because if they, in my thought process, if they're not willing to do that level of research, like even just watch a 15-20 minute video, if they're not willing to answer a few questions about what they want to achieve, are they really that serious about changing? And then from a sales efficiency perspective, I think, okay, well, even though I might potentially lose 1 or 2 people that I could have possibly pushed through in an hour-long pitch and handled objections and got them through, etc., the amount of time that I would save to be able to talk to more qualified prospects is going to result in typically more sales. So when I introduced this with Jay, we went from an average of 2 sales a week to 7 to 8 sales a week, because the call length dramatically reduced. Sure, the cost per acquisition went up a little bit, but we were bringing in so much more volume that it didn't matter, because we weren't wasting tons of time speaking to people that weren't serious about changing, weren't serious about improving their situation, etc. So yeah, that was kind of I know we went back and forth a bit, so I expanded and I went on a few rants and stuff, but that was kind of the implementations, which may be relevant for you guys now, Amanda, and especially now that you've found that message and you're starting to potentially grow. What I would suggest, if you are going to take some things from this and possibly implement it, is probably just do one thing at a time, rather than try and throw all of that in. But when you can get the system really humming and refined like that, as I said, it more than tripled the amount of sales volume we were able to do. So we were already, because we're already spending, I think, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 1,500 a day at that stage on ads. So we'll just round it out. We're already spending 10K a week and we're producing 2 sales off that, which was, the price point was 25K. So that was 50K return. So 10K in, 50K out, still pretty good. But when we turn that to 10K in, 200K out, even though I was doing less pitches, I was speaking to less people, and maybe there were 1 or 2 that, as I said, could have been squeezed through by really long pitches and etc. The efficiency that it enabled in the system just accelerated the growth exponentially.
That's hugely helpful. Honestly, that was really, really good. Really appreciate that.
Excellent. Let me know how you go with, if you do implement any of it and tinker around. If you want to run it, if you want to ask questions before, like if you put some stuff together and then just want to run any of it by me before you put it into the process, then obviously feel free.
Yeah.
But I thought that might be useful, as I've seen the group, like show rates and things like that have been an issue for some people, and I never had show rate issues, and I never had closing rate issues, because everything I just spoke about then, yeah, there was some practical implementations, but I think it all kind of stems from that open door policy dating sort of mindset of don't be desperate, don't chase, like set the frames well at each stage.
Yeah, no, that's so helpful. I think that this is really going to help us. And yeah, I definitely will get on to you and let you know. I have a call with Brian after this, so I will chat to him and go from there.
Yeah, easy. And
appreciate you, Sam.
All good. I'm
probably going to hop off now. Yeah, I'm going to hop off now. Thank you.
Good to chat.
Thanks.
Let me know how you go with the ads.
Will do. Thank you.
Yep. Us, Johnny, are you guys in with me, or?
Yo, what's up?
How you doing?
Yeah, bro. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Just rocking along. I think a few people maybe missed I don't know if it's daylight savings or the day switch with Hugh doing yesterday and me doing today. I think Hugh's away or something. He's on a holiday, so we had to switch. But least you guys are here, so we can jump
Yeah.
into what you guys want to chat about. Maybe we'll start with you, Johnny, because you jumped in.
All right, so no worries, no worries. So what kind of happened with me is like last week I had like quite a cool week. I almost made like 9K collected, which was nice.
Nice.
But this week just like the bookings have been like super low. Have been like super low. I can hear myself twice. I can hear myself twice. No worries. I don't know if that was my computer. All good. Yeah, and it was just like the bookings are coming like low, and the messages aren't like in the ads manager the messages look fine, and I asked my VA team and they said that like a lot of them are like unsubscribing first, or like not replying to messages and things like that. So if you have any advice or anything.
I guess first question would be, hey Shauna, by the way, I was using you as an example before you missed it. You'll have to watch the live later on or the replay. But Johnny, what have you done differently? Have you done anything differently in that time?
Nah, nothing differently.
So sometimes obviously because the market's the market, there are just going to be times when things aren't as good, and you've been in the game for a while, right? Like things always rock and up and ebb and flow, so that could be a reason. So I wouldn't jump in and start ripping everything apart and be like, oh, I need to change everything. You have an increased budget at all in that time?
Nah, nothing.
So you could circle in and look at, okay, well, is my creative potentially fatiguing? Am I still getting into new audiences? What's the frequency climbing up to? If the frequency is starting to get higher, and it's getting closer to like 2, maybe my ads are starting to fatigue a bit, and I need to introduce some new creatives and new options in there. It could also be the angle that's fatiguing. I would just jump in and start testing new creative angles, because things can flip back like that, right? So even if you have 4 days that go bad, that's why we always measure things over weeks and months, not day to day. Because then you could have a really great weekend where heaps get booked, and then you're like, oh, it all just like the backlog just kicks in. But you also want to be proactive with this and think, okay, well, maybe I need to start taking some of the concepts that I know have been working and develop some slight variations of those creatives.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it still the one ad that's primarily just driving everything?
Yeah. So I tried like different angles and stuff and like different creatives, and it was just that one ordered with like boss. So but I've got like a few photos of clients that I've taken and stuff that I'm going to try again. So try some new creatives that are kind of like similar to my winning one. I just haven't launched it yet.
You don't have any. I'll just jump into your account. You could potentially, like, you've got this winning campaign. You could try potentially a retargeting campaign as well on a low budget, to possibly start. Which one's your broad audience ads? So that's where all the money's going. So yeah, you could introduce a retargeting campaign that could be just a more direct message, like if you're seeing this, you've probably seen some of the women that lives we've transformed, and just retarget the people that have been to your booking page or been to your into your ManyChat flow, and just retarget them with a direct message of like, now's the time to change, Or you could take the broad campaign, duplicate it into a client lookalike audience. So upload, you would have probably well over 100 clients by now, right? Over your time. So you could grab that CSV file of your clients, upload it as a custom audience, and then create a lookalike of that custom audience and see if that starts to push these ads into a different realm.
All right, cool. All right, sweet.
So there's a few things you can try. Unfortunately, there's, as you know, with marketing, it's always like try. There's no definitive answer, but yeah, they would probably be the three things. So lookalike, retarget, and test new creatives.
Cool. Okay, for sure, for sure. And should I test? What should I do them like one at a time?
I'd probably do the lookalike. You can just thanks, Huss. The lookalike you can probably just do straight away with the current ad set that's winning. Hey, Scotty.
Morning, Sam.
Did you miss the daylight savings update?
Oh, is this just ending? Is it or?
We're not ending. We're just jumping onto Johnny, and we've got Shauna, and we'll jump across to you as well. But there has been an hour of training prior to that, so you can watch that as well.
I have to watch that. Yeah, of course. My bad, mate. Yeah, because I'm in Queensland, so I'm an hour behind. Yeah, an hour behind you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that first couple of weeks always throws us all out. That's all right. But yeah, then Johnny, just do the lookalike with the current ads already. You could just do that straight away. Start thinking about your concepts for a retargeting campaign, and then look at introducing some new creatives as well.
Okay, cool.
So that'd be my action plan. And then also don't freak out. Keep your emotions steady.
Yeah, that's important.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah, that's the most important one.
Yeah. So we'll jump. Was that the main thing that's been challenging you at the moment?
That's it, bro. Thank you.
That was easy. So, and then anything that I've discussed earlier in the call as well, if you want to look at any of that stuff, then just message me about it and we can see if it works for you. Shauna, how we going?
Okay, hi. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was at 7 o'clock my time too. So that's why I just jumped in right now. So I missed the training. So I'll have to.
No, that's all right. Me and Amanda had a good yarn. So daylight saving. Do you guys have daylight savings over there? Is that a thing?
Yeah, but not today. Yeah, we have it twice a year, but it's not today. I don't know when it is. No.
We just had ours, so we've moved an hour apart. So I thought it might throw a few people. And then with Hugh obviously doing yesterday as well, and it kind of threw a few things around, but you're here, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I just wanted to go over how some of my ads are doing. Because like I just had a little bit of a blip there like a week ago. They were working well for the first week, or the second week actually, once they started getting some traction. And then I kind of freaked out and I changed something. And I think I know what I did was I tried to scale it a little bit, but instead of doing like a 5 or 10%, I did $10. And I think, I don't know if it messed things up for a couple of days, because suddenly it went from like, I don't know, $5 a lead to like 15. And then I kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
So then I put it back down to just like a $20 a day, and I feel like it's evening out again. So I just increased it again. I think it was yesterday, just by $2, but I've never done this strategy before. So when I was learning the ads last year, I don't know, I was told to duplicate it and times it by 3.
Times the budget by 3.
Yeah, duplicate it and times the budget by 3, which worked for me back then. I was doing pretty well. So this way is new to me. So I screwed it up, whatever. So am I correct where I just increased it? Like I went from $20 to $22, and then I should just basically do that again in the next couple of days and just slowly creep it up?
Yeah, essentially. You can even build in automated rules into Facebook to basically let Facebook do it for you, as long as the cost per lead stays at a reasonable threshold. And generally, like if you want to give it at least 100% of what your average would be. So if you say you want $5 leads, you would give it the range up to 10 to work within, because obviously it'll start to fluctuate. Some days will be high, some days will be low, etc.
Okay.
So you can do automated ruling, but yeah, essentially you want to steadily scale, because the approach that you would have been taught is based on what's called the pocket theory, which is like, if I duplicate this ad set, it will move into a different audience, which does work, but then you run into scaling issues. And then if you just keep doing that, all you can do is scale through trying to find these new pockets. You can't actually get proper market penetration. So I just took over a guy's account at the moment who, well, they're spending about 15K a month in ad spend. And I went into the ad sets and they had 97 different ad sets in there. And I was like, what the fuck? Because they had just been, every time things started to blow out or increase from a lead cost, they just duplicate the ad set and try this pocket theory.
Well, that's what mine looks like on a smaller scale. Same kind
yeah,
of
and it works to a degree, but as I said, you struggle with scale, and you also it's very high maintenance. Like you've got to spend almost every day in the ad account doing stuff. So with this approach, we're trying to work in alignment with Facebook and what Facebook wants. So the reason we only do, and you can do it daily, especially if you've got a really good creative, and you can go 10% a day and just build. But every time you add a little bit of budget, the audience goes, or the circulating budget supply goes from that to that to that to that. So then Facebook needs to find more people that fit within that.
Okay.
So if you're, say, spending $20 a day at the moment on that ad set, that'll circulate in this little group of people here. If you go from 20 to 50, now it's going to go to that. Facebook will either decide this ad is good enough to try and circulate, and then it will try and find more people that sort of match this, which can take a couple of days to sort of adjust and learn. Or it might say, these ads aren't that great, we're just going to pump it around this audience more, and then the frequency blows out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Makes perfect sense. Yep.
So in the meantime, like, steady scale, and then obviously more tests as well, like we were saying to Johnny before.
Yeah, I ran another couple of ad tests, and then I'm going to get into some videos and stuff too. But am I looking at a 7-day maximum then too, or are you just looking at full maximum, or what are you looking at there in terms of cost per result?
I'll look at maximum, but then I'll zone into 30-day, 14-day, and 7-day. But sometimes if you look at maximum, you might have had an ad that has performed really well for, say, a few weeks, but then you go to 30-day and it's gone from $4 to $6, and then you go from 14 days and it's gone from $6 to $12, and then you go to 7-day and it's at $15. So even though the maximum shows a good average, you can get an idea that, okay, this ad's starting to really increase as time goes on. So depends how you personally want to manage it.
Well, I know that since Saturday when I changed it again and I brought it back down to 20, and then I think I just fixed it or whatever, then it's been getting better again. Like I can see that the frequency is going down and the cost per message and everything is going back down again.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. I'm getting some messages and then some calls booked. So I just need to get more messages and more calls. That's the thing, right? It's not enough right now, because I know, like, for me, just handling it on my own last year, I was at about $60 a day, and I felt like I was getting enough in where I was almost going to hand it off to somebody and hire somebody to start like setting.
Yep.
And then, well, long story short, I had a concussion and I had to shut everything down, but so I never got to do that.
Yep.
But I'm trying to get it to that point again where I'm like so busy but so I'm ready for it. I can handle it on my back end. I just need these ads to, and it's the same ad. Like I've tested like 12, 13 different ads now. It's the exact same ad that was working for me last year is now working again. Nothing else seems to be matching it quite so.
And when you did the budget increase, how long did you let it run for? Was that like a day and things blew out?
It was I think it was about 2.5, 3 days, something like that. Like,
Okay.
oh, you mean before when I did the oopsie budget increase? Like that
Yeah,
one?
like
Like
when
the
you
one.
jumped it by a bit.
Oh, I think it was running for 2 weeks.
Okay. I was just asking because I was wondering if like you bumped it and then the next day it blew out and you were like, oh, I got to change it again, rather than giving it some time to adjust.
I gave it a couple of days to adjust, but then I was like, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
So then I put it back down again.
Fair enough.
Teach
Fair enough.
Facebook a lesson.
Well, yeah, if you can steadily scale, you'll be able to reflect a bit more at each stage, because at the end of the day, you want to see, is my scaling affecting the revenue growth? So obviously, am I getting more calls booked by increasing budget, etc.? If that's not happening, then that's an issue. And then we've got a messaging issue where potentially your message is only going to resonate with a small portion of the audience. And you may need a wider appealing message to bring more people into your ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So that kind of works off. Have you heard of the buyer's pyramid principle?
No.
So it's, heaps of people have made different variations of it, but basically it's that there's a pyramid and the top 3% are the ones that are in market looking for solutions right now. So they're ready to buy. Then
that pyramid. Sorry.
Yeah,
yes, I have heard of that one. Yeah. Okay.
So your message right now, for example, and this is just a theory, might only be resonating with that 3%. So when you try and spend more and Facebook's forced to go out into a wider audience, again, just a theory at this point, so test it through steady scaling, but it might not appeal to these less problem aware or less urgent people, if that makes sense. So then we need to craft a message to people that are more looking on their journey, not actively looking to purchase.
But then wouldn't they need to see it a few times? Like I get that for organic when I used to do just organic, but like for ads and stuff, they would only just see it that one time, wouldn't they? And then if they're not ready to buy anyways, they wouldn't click on it. Or
Facebook, you'll see, and I'll show you. Do I have it on this computer? Let me just show you something. I'll find it. But buyers' journeys aren't linear. What I mean by that, so I showed this to the guys in Bali.
right.
Where is it? I know it was on, which day was it? No, it was the last day. So people will generally need to see ads a few times before they make a commitment to engaging. So when you start to build out, because you'll have a direct response ad, right? Which you have right now, which is a direct response ad, and there will be that 3% that are in market that will see that one time and be like, oh yeah, I'm looking for that, and they'll click through. But that's only 3% of the market, right? So if we want to expand that market, the buying journey, the more stages, the colder an audience gets, and the lower in that pyramid you get, the longer the buying journey is going to be. So that's where ads and organic and everything becomes more of an ecosystem where they work together. It's not like separate, isolated channels. So, for example, someone might see your ad that's talking about, I don't know, here's the problems that you might be going through. Here's my solution, blah, blah, blah. They might see it and go, oh, that was interesting, but they don't actually click through the ad. They click through the page. Then they might see another ad or they might see the same ad again, depending on what happens. They're like, oh, I've seen this chick again. What's she about? They check you out on Instagram, then they check you out everywhere else. And then eventually they see another ad that they actually convert on. So the wider an audience we go, the longer that buying journey becomes. And that's when it becomes more important to create a more rounded ecosystem, because, and that's where, even though cost per lead is important for you to track right at the start, the bigger your campaign gets and the more spend you put into it, the more it becomes a lagging metric where it's not necessarily indicative of campaign performance, because at the end of the day, it was just that ad was lucky enough to get in front of that person at the point when they wanted to buy or when they wanted to pull the trigger. So there's many other factors that tie into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I need to pick up my organic game again then too, is what you're saying.
Keep doing the organic, keep pumping that
I haven't been because when I switched over to ads last year, they were just working so well and I had no time literally for organic. That's the hard part too for me, is like it takes a while, I think, to like make posts and different things like that.
But you don't have to delve in, like when I'm saying that, if your ads are good enough, there's more than enough market for you to reach $100, $200, $300 a day just through ads. You just need to keep refining your message and keep testing and bring new ones in.
Okay.
But at some point, having a well-rounded ecosystem is a useful investment.
Okay. So you're not saying, like right now it's going to hold me back.
No, right now you're spending what, $20 a day?
Yeah, I just get started. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to scale it again if I can.
Yeah,
get
so
it
just
up there.
Add that 10% or 20% every 2-3 days. Keep an eye on it. Whilst it's growing, start writing new copy, coming up with new creative concepts, have them in the chamber, and then when they're flushed out, launch them, test them, see how they perform. And you might go through, I don't know, 60, 70 iterations of new ads until you get one message that finally takes. Like you look at the volume Abram was saying that he was doing, and I know it's different story because he's spending $1,000 a day plus on ads. So it's very different circumstances, but he's writing 20 to 40 ads, new ads a day, launching new stuff all the time, testing. And Dan Martin, who was in Bali with us, he was saying like when he just wants to test a new message, he basically allocates like a couple of grand of testing money to just throw at stuff. And he'll just get a bunch of stuff out there, see how it performs. Then some will do well, some won't. Maybe they all bomb. But he just keeps going through these testing phases to build out his winning campaigns.
Okay.
But while you got a winner, keep writing it, and then but don't rest on your laurels.
Right. Okay. Yep, that helps. Thank you.
All good. And I like your ManyChat flow, by the way. I was using it as a reference before, in the training that I was doing. So if you want to, I made some recommendations in that if you want to rewatch it. It was just more around languaging. But overall, good process.
Okay, thank you.
Scotty, what's going on with you?
Hey mate, so when I sort of jumped on with Dan on Friday, what I sort of mentioned was I've made a few changes since last week. So I created the lookalike audience based on all the data from Go High Level. So I've got an audience which is kind of anyone who's pretty much ever booked a call in the last 2 years. Existing clients, bad fits, you name it, pretty much. So it was like I don't know, it's like maybe 1,200 bits of data, I think 1,100 bits of data in there. And it just made such a massive difference. Like we're now, like the lead cost is ridiculous. It's like under $2. It's like $2 leads. So I bumped that up on Saturday. I took the email scrape out of the ManyChat flow as well. So I took that out. And and what was interesting, how I said I was having an issue with the Money Magnet campaign, how I had that winning ad set, right? And then I was doing that was the control ad set. And then I was testing a bottom of funnel. But for whatever reason, it was turning the bottom of funnel one off, or the winning one off. Yep. Same thing happened when I created, obviously just to put another ad set in the campaign as the, you know, custom audience. I just named it that, and within 48 hours, yeah, Facebook had turned off the winning ad set. So it was, because that was just the broad one, right? So all I did was duplicate the winning ad set and then just change the audience to that, you know, to that, I guess that custom audience. So that's all. I'm just leaving it now. So we had like, I think 4 or 5 bookings come in on a Sunday, which was crazy. But out of, I think 2 or 3 of those bookings were from the lead form campaign that I've got going, which is just, you know, direct call to action. They do the survey and then they get redirected to the booking calendar if they want to book a call. Otherwise, I'll just triage them. So, nice. Yeah, so that's pretty much, because I've been away for a few days. So what I actually did, I pulled the budget. I pulled the budget down, which I don't normally do, but I figured, you know what, the girls haven't really been booking any calls. So the 3 main things I really did on Saturday morning was we moved to Jara's. He shared with me his version of the DM script. So we changed to that. We got rid of the email script because I feel that was like a potential bottleneck. We're getting people dropping off in the flow when they're, you know, getting hit with the 4th message in the mini chat flow. So we removed that, and then of course we changed our audience. So we kind of changed 3 relatively big things, I think. So fingers crossed. What I'm doing now is every second day I'm just going to up the budget again by $10, and just get it back up to where it was, and hopefully fill the calendar. So
nice, and some good implementations then. That ad set switching off thing has to be a glitch. Don't
know. Well, because when it was happening before, when I had the bottom of funnel ad set on, and then I had the winning ad set on, like it just get every 24 hours, I would turn it back on and it would just turn it back off again, like at 6 o'clock in the morning or maybe at midnight, whatever it was just turning off. So, and you know what, at the end of the day, I think the looking at the frequency of the ones that the 4 ads running in the winning ad set, there was nothing that was really in the bottom of funnel. It wasn't really as bottom of funnel as probably what I would have liked anyway. So I just left it turned off. And now obviously with the audience, like Facebook is just deciding, well, we're just going to put all the ad spend into this custom audience, right? Because we're getting cheaper leads. And the CTRs are, I'm just having a look at it now. So I changed it on, was it Saturday? What are we, Thursday now? So let me have a look at the metrics. Yeah, so it's averaging $1.90 lead. We've got 88 leads since Saturday, $1.90, yeah, $1.90 lead cost. CPMs are $15. Click-through rate on the front end is 3, on the back end, it's 12.2. So
perfect.
12 cent per click, you know, so so we're just going to see, we're finding that also that the different DM script is definitely making a difference. Not calling out maybe that cost out. I think that was potentially hurting us, like calling out that cost of inaction. I think a little bit too early. But one thing that with Jara's script I have found though, still relatively early in the flow, it's like you ask the question, are you serious about investing in getting, you know, professional help, mate? And you're only going to get a yes or a no, and more people will say no than they'll say yes. So I'm just sort of going through some training with the girls. Well, if they say this, well, we go back to what they said was important to them. So either desired outcome, focus on that, or cost of inaction. Like I get it, you know, you got to invest your money wisely, but it sounds like, you know, you were pretty keen to change your circumstances or X, Y, Z, you know, cool. So tell me about this weight, you know, establish that gap. If they've said it's weight loss, well, how long have you been stuck at X point, and why do you want to, yeah. So they've got some tools to navigate when that happens, but yeah, but we'll see. We've had more bookings in the last, you know, I guess 4 days than what we've had probably in the last 3 weeks. So fingers crossed. I can get out of this purgatory that we've been in. Yeah, as I was having a chat to Dan yesterday. So.
Yeah, in a little bit of a rut, we'll say, or it's just.
Well, yeah, what's basically happened, you know, so I was saying this to Sam, is that I just, for me, it just didn't make logical sense to just keep spending, you know, $2-3 grand a week on ads when we're only getting the same amount of, and on a low week, we might only get 5 or 6 bookings on that ad spend. It didn't. And if I go back to doing that, and like, if it's still costing me $150 to $200 a book call, I haven't really solved the original problem that I joined the community to solve. But of course, the problem is, I said to Dan, I've got myself in a, you know, running at, I've actually, some months I've been running at a loss because I've kept, we've streamlined, I guess, certain aspects with staff, but because I've had the same staff and, dietitians, I've had to kind of, in a way, carry the business almost at a loss for a period of months, which is not really ideal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now it will just be increasing that and and making some changes.
For sure. And now you're seeing positive, that was quick, Maddie was in and out. Now you're seeing positive shifts starting to happen, which is, obviously it's early days, so we don't want to bank on it. Something I picked up I was going through some of my old stuff the other day, which was a question that may be useful in the pre-DM process, like in the automated flow.
Yep.
That I used to ask people all the time to financially qualify them, but as a disguised financial qualification question, which was like, and you might have done it back in the personal training days, but I used to always just ask people, so John, what do you do for work at the moment, mate? Are you behind a desk, or are you up and active throughout the day?
Yeah.
So that way you're disguising the question to see if they're working by by pretending you're assessing their activity levels.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the questions that Jared, that we're using now. It's in the DM, it's not in the ManyChat. The ManyChat thing's relatively short now, but what really changed is taking out the email scrape. But basically, I think it's it's maybe a couple of questions in. It's like, what is it you do for work, by the way, mate? Does it stress you or keep you on your feet all day, kind of thing? So that is one of the questions that we use in there. But it's interesting, there's a guy that I actually booked him myself. I was testing out this thing here, and he said, no, I'm not working. And he said, when he asked the question, look, are you open to some advice? Are you serious about investing? He says, yeah, 100%. I've got to do this. I've got to put the diabetes in remission. Booked him. I got him on a call. I got him on Zoom last night, paid in full, because he was a builder. He was just not working by choice at the moment because of his energy levels, So, but there's always outliers, but yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people that aren't are probably going to be red, I guess, flags. But anyway, look, if Jara's getting a pretty good conversions of leads with this process, we're going to give it a red hot crack, see how we go.
For sure.
Yeah,
it sounds pretty similar. And even if they do say they're not working, then you just know maybe you need to ask a couple of questions around their situation to, as you said, is that through choice, or what would you normally be doing for work? I used to be a builder. Okay, why aren't you a builder anymore? Blah, blah, blah. And then you can get more direct if you feel like they're potentially not going to be financially qualified, and ask them that direct question of, are you willing to invest in getting professional help or whatever?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, we've still got, I think, that on the booking, on the application form there, it's like, whatever the Dan's got in there in the template in the group, are you willing to finance invest in yourself if you feel that this is the right solution? So it's a yes or no. So at least we know, and the girls will see it when they book a call, and be able to give me a heads up if someone says no, and then we can kind of dig a little bit further. But I suppose at the end of the day, I think it's just to show some kind of intent with that financial question, because most people, if they don't really know you yet, of course they're going to say no. They just want free advice, and they're not willing to necessarily spend. But however, once you connect with a real human being, especially like I do all my strap calls on Zoom, once you kind of get to like a lot of that, you break down that wall anyway. And if they're genuinely interested and they believe that, that you've got a solution for them, and they're not a junkie, they're not sort of, they're not hitting that dopamine addiction ad because they're coming from that sort of demographic.
Yeah.
They're usually a pretty good fit. Like I had two calls yesterday, and they both signed up. And it was basically no objections. No, not at all.
Okay, nice. And that was off since the lookalike,
since the changes. Yeah, since the changes on Saturday, I made those changes, changed the flow, published the the new ad set on Saturday morning. I don't know, like maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, and then, as I said, by Sunday we saw the bookings sort of coming through.
Beautiful. And when you with the lookalike now, and especially if obviously with CBO in place, if Facebook's allocating the budget there primarily, what you'll generally see happen as you start to scale the budget is they'll increase at the same rate to a point, and then the lookalike audience will probably start to taper off in spend, and the broad will start to pick up more of the spend. So then that's kind of like, because the lookalike won't have as much scale because it's way less data points than the broad, but because it's more direct data points, you can get a good amount of budget to work in there. And then when you get like maybe a few hundred a day, 500 a day, etc., more will start to allocate across the broad.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm keen to test it out. And then the next thing for me is actually just going to be testing, having spoke to Abram on Friday's call where he was sharing, like, he doesn't do any, it's all videos, but I guess it's all relative, right? When he spends like about 2K a day on ads, right? Is how much he actually spends at the moment on his ads. And so like when he's talking about, he's got some conversion campaigns, of course. So when he talks about $50, leads, or one was like $90, and Dan said, well, why would you let it run to that? And he's like, well, I guess I get applications off it. So that's like a booked, that's how much is costing, I guess, for like, I guess a book call. That's a direct VSL, and obviously I guess it's a self-booking. So I guess when you look at that, $90 is actually not so bad, because there's no VA in place there that's kind of setting that sort of call. But I think a lot of his stuff, when you start comparing it, you think, oh wow, that's quite expensive. But I mean, if you're getting the bookings but you're spending 2K a day, that's what I found in the past with video ads, is that if I've got the say CBO on, is that the static images they pick up the spend anyway, because I find that the CTRs, or the CPMs, like, you obviously pay a little bit more for the video ads, but I've just always found bang for buck in terms of the leads. I don't necessarily get a better quality, but a lot of people seem to be huge fans of the video ads. But I've just, like, in terms of the number of leads you get, the cost per lead, it just hasn't really kind of weighed up. But I'm keen to be, I don't know, try it again and launch some different video ads and see if there's more engagement from those ones. So. Yeah,
because it's kind of like balancing. Whenever you're running the account, you got to balance what Facebook wants and then what you want at the same time, right? Because you could put an ad that's super engaging but shit at converting, and Facebook will put all the budget there because it's going to be nice to the audience. So, but it misses your objective, which is converting. So you need to find that happy medium of doing what they want, but still getting your conversions. And as you said, sometimes those conversion costs can go up, but as I've shared before, like cost per lead to me is more of a lagging metric. It's something we want to keep an eye on, but it's not something we make decisions on, because you want to know, as Abram said, like, even if he's paying $90 here to get a direct booking in, and then but $50 to get a lead, he's still got to have that lead get booked. So it makes more sense to, even potentially put more budget there, because it's a more streamlined sales process.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I wonder, because what was curious is that, I mean, I think, Abram will have like a business like 10 times the size it is just by improving, I think, the show up rate. And one thing, it's not being so said, I did say this on the Friday. One thing I found that when we were advertising earlier in the year to both genders, we did find that the no-show rate for the ladies was a lot higher for some reason than it is with the guys. Because Abram said he's never had anything really better than a 25%, I think, show-up rate. Which was really, really interesting and stuff for that. But I think for right now, look, I've made 3, I guess, significant changes in less than a week ago. I'm just going to push hard and increase that budget, get some bookings in the calendar, and let it do its thing for a bit, rather than potentially launch a video ad now. And as you said, at Facebook, put all the spend behind that, and then see the number of conversations drop down. Like, the last thing that my VAs need now is less conversations to have.
So, yeah, for sure. And as you said, the challenges that Abram's going through are things that are further down the track when the budget's expanded. And I've found that this is more just talking in general, not necessarily specific to your situation. But as you do scale budget, and as things, we'll say, increase in size, there's a point of diminishing return for certain activities where you can try and continue to squeeze people through, but the amount of extra people you squeeze through versus the time that it takes to try and squeeze through, you might get an extra 1 or 2 sales, but it takes an extra 5-10 hours a week. So then it comes about shifting to efficiency, and as I said, like even the show up rates, maybe they need to have better qualification processes so that they're not taking time out of the calendar for people that are not showing up, and be stricter on the front end. And that, like, as I was sharing earlier, that's something I did with Jay, where we basically took the same amount of ad spend, but I introduced all the stuff that I spoke about at the start of this training, introduced that into the sales process. And we went from 2 sales a week to 8+ sales a week with the same ad spend. And I was rather than spending all day on the phones and all day calling people and stuff, I only had to spend 4 hours a day to get the same, we'll get more than triple the result, because we just increased the efficiency and started to look at, okay, well, where's time getting wasted, where are calendar blocks getting wasted, and just chopping it out and automating it.
Absolutely. I'll rewatch the training later today for sure. 100%.
What did you change, Scotty? You said that you got more bookings in and paid in fulls.
Oh, all I changed was on Saturday, mate. I sort of created a lookalike audience, based on all the data that we've sort of had over the last sort of 2 years in Go High Level. So I just duplicated the winning ad set, stuck because I've never ever played around with audiences before. I've always just gone, broad age, an age group and gender. So basically we just duplicated the winning ad set, mate, threw another audience, custom audience at it. And like the 1% lookalike audience. And
so what was the audience on? Just the complete database of leads, or
it was pretty much, all I did, man, was just I exported a CSV file from Go High Level, and it was in the filter option. You can kind of add like book calls, existing, bad, or basically anyone who's ever in the last, like it's been 2 or maybe about 2.5 years since we started doing online stuff. So anyone who's pretty much in Go High Level that's ever booked a call, whether they've showed up or not, existing clients, past clients, just all those names. But then of course I had to do is just exclude, add a column for Australia, add a column for gender. So basically that's all it was. It's pretty easy to do. And then I just took the email scrape out of my ManyChat, and because I had that survey which I use like post booking for people to do, I had that as part of the flow, and I got rid of that. And then I changed the DM flow. So the one that I was using that I think was maybe, I don't know, I didn't think it was overly different, but I'm sort of trialing, I guess, a variation of what Jerry uses in the group, because he's had a pretty good conversion rate with that. So they're the 3 things, man.
Because I was going to do a lookalike, like I said last week, Sam, but it was purely off of bought, and I don't think the data is big enough there over the last year. I think it's about 80. I think you've got to be up 100, 200, don't you? In between that.
Hey, on that, Matty, I'm curious, if you want to do a lookalike based off the ones that have just bought, would it be fair to say that, like right now today, you're better converting somebody on a sales call than you were a year ago?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, I'm no expert, but my 20 cents worth in terms of, I think if someone's actually booked a call, they've showed some intent, it's probably not a bad place to start, rather than just going, because you might find that someone who didn't buy that you might have spoke to a year ago, that might have been, could have been anything, could have been so many different factors, and maybe you just weren't good enough back then, but today you probably could have closed them, and so they'd kind of fit your...
targeting them and that's what I just click then is doing, because I've had shitloads of bookings, lots of, I do a lookalike on sales, bookings, and do one from there. It'll be a much bigger...
It's more if you if that audience is all the right people. So if you, like Scotty was saying, if you have people booked and they were the right audience, so you've always been attracting the right people to speak to, then use that entire database, because it's just more data points.
I wanted to get on today, and I didn't want to rush a sales call, and I didn't want to rush my last client. but I wanted to, that's why yesterday when I messaged you, because I'm just at that same thing, one winning ad and nothing's beating it. And I'm like, and that lookalike was too small. So I think my question's been answered on what I need to work on next is probably a lookalike of that.
Thanks, Scotty.
Of that size. Thanks, Scotty. Because nothing's beating that ad. It's just, and weirdly, I know you said not to do it, but I put ad spend up on it and then it just dies in the ass. And then I turn it back to $50 and it just seems to be on $50. It generates 10 to 12 to 13 leads per day. I'll put it up $60 for a week and then it'll just be doing 3, 5, 3, 5. And then it starts to go a little bit sort of like out of the niche. Like, it's really weird. Like maybe I'm overlooking it, but all of a sudden it's like lots of unsubscribes or non-chatting people. And weirdly, I go back to 50, the 13 starts again, the 10, and I just get engagement again.
It's interesting. Shauna was having the same thing with her ones. She got one winning ad that when she tried to jump the budget, just blew out and lost traction. What could be happening is like you've got your $50 level is like here, and as we're talking about before, the buyer's pyramid concept, right? The 3%, 6%, 7%. So your $50 in that market, your ad might be appealing to that, maybe that 10% or that 3% of that particular market. And as you go out of that budget, Facebook's trying to find a wider audience to facilitate that budget. But then as it's trying to find a wider audience, it's starting to bring in people that either aren't the right fit or are less aware of the problem that they're facing. So that's when a new message level can be like, so if you do introduce a new ad, it might not pick up the spend, for example, at $50. So we'll just use the current example. So you're at $50 now, you introduce a new ad that you think might be more broad appealing, et cetera, or whatever the theory is. But because Facebook likes this ad at $50, it's going to keep favoring that. But once you go to 60, 75, maybe this another ad now starts to all of a sudden pick up more spend. And then as it goes to $100 a day, this ad might stay at only picking up, or you might find the current ad only picks up half the spend and the other ad now picks up the other half of the spend. So now that load starts to get shared and this one starts to appeal to a different audience, etc. Or you can scale through audience shifting, which is duplicating that into the lookalike.
Yeah, because so if I go back to yesterday, that same ad as per last week, the frequency is 1.12 as of yesterday. And that was the same as last week, which you said is nice and low. If I go to maximum, if I go at the ad set level, the frequency is 1.92, but on a day-to-day basis, it's always sitting at 1.12.
So when it's at one, so you do want to look at both. So the maximum is showing us that there's potentially an audience that it's found a spot in. So it's almost 1.92, it's basically getting up towards 2. But if everyone's seeing it a day, it's still finding new people each day, but it's potentially starting to, if you keep an eye on that maximum one and it starts to creep up to closer to 2, it's potentially starting to run out of new people that it's finding every day.
Yeah, because I think 2 to 3 days ago, it did click over 2, but now it's back to 1.92.
Yeah. So it might have just breached into a new area. Or maybe that 60, when you bumped it to the 60, it tried to move into a new audience that wasn't aligned.
So really, because like you said, with the last week, I put a couple of TikTok style video ads that I used to have, but basically put my pain points in them, tried a bit of the upper and pointing. But yeah, it's they've been going for quickly do what day, I can't remember when I put them up. They've been going for 4 days now, you know, and $1.65 spend, $2 spend, 21 cents spend, you know, it's like 2 link clicks, 219 impressions, you know, just under $4 ad spend, you know what I mean? And it's everything that I'm throwing. This one of me, where it's just me eating a burger, men that weigh over 100 plus, is just throwing them at that. It's got over 100,000 impressions now. Over the maximum time, it's $8 cost per result, but daily it'll go from $6.10 to $9, $4.87 the other day. You know, like it's on its lowest day it might give me three for when funny enough, the lowest days, 3 leads has been on my $60 days. All the $50 days, it's between $4 and $7 per lead.
Yeah. Maybe
leave them on a bit longer at that 60.
No, if you go to the 60, introduce new ads and see if those new ads pick up spend, or introduce new ads now, see how they go, and then increase the budget so that load the budget.
Actually, I did increase. It's at 55 now. For the last 2 days, it's done 5 and 10. When I jumped online yesterday with Hugh, he said maybe instead of doing 20%, just try going to $52, then $54, you know, just smaller increments. So yeah, I've just been trying that, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's at $5.89 today. So, but you know, I was thinking really, if I do a lookalike, would I do that as an ad set or another campaign? Because it's a different objective. Is it a different campaign?
Different ad set, because it would still be the same objective being running into the ManyChat. So you would just duplicate your current winning ad set and change the audience. So grab that CSV file, upload it as a custom, and then create the lookalike
level, and then probably just slowly start increasing the ad spend to see, like you were saying, to see if it starts distributing across. All right, cool.
Yeah, and you might find, like, because it's at a relatively low daily spend at the moment, like Scotty's found that more of the budget might go towards the lookalike initially, and then it'll, as you start to increase the spend, it'll start to spread out across more evenly. And the same with ad sets as well. Like if you introduce more ads, even if they don't pick up spend at a low level of spend, you might find that at a higher level of spend, they do start to pick up more spend because they're more appealing to a wider audience.
So I only do a new campaign if I'm going to do a leads conversion, like Abram style.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I want to fine tune that a little bit more. I could fire it off. I was going to fire it off last week, but there's a few videos that I want to record for it because I don't want it to be sort of half-assed and not get proper data from it. So I want to put another VSL a bit more niche specific, calling them out. And then on the back end of it, when they register, there is going to be a ManyChat into it. And I want to throw some trainings at them. So I've got to edit a few of my lives inside my group. So then if they get into that chat, it'll be like, hey, Sam, you know, what ticks your boxes most of the moment, fat loss, nutrition, whatever it is, training, here's a training for you. You know, oh, I'm bad in motivation. Here's a, you know, bang, here's a training for you. And that training will be, you know, like on, you know, just a little bit of intent. So then if they watch it, then I can jump in there, they've booked a call and get rapport before the call by them saying, hey, I'm online for a bit. Did you watch the training? Yeah, I did. What did you get from it? Yeah, cool. You know, we've got our call booked for this time. Just ask a few questions. I've got a bit more messaging, and then bang, looking really forward to the call. You'll be speaking to me. And then really just hit them with that, like you said, that appointment style message. So I've just finally got a thing back from Stripe. So I've got an alphanumeric, so I can do Spartan method, but it's not enough numeral. So I've got to try and find a way that it's like, you know, I can't get, it's like 11 letters or whatever. So it'll be like Spartan. I looked it up. I can't put it because it would say Spartan meth. It's got to stop on meth. So, but I want it to be the business. So like you're saying, so it's like, hey, your call's booked at this time, gives a Y or an N, you know. So then it's basically, you know, like they're booking in a appointment.
Could you just put S.M or S.method?
Let's pay, yeah. It's easier, mate. I'll just ask. Say, here's the 2 words I want: alphanumeric 11, chat GPT, give me 10 variations.
Yeah, figure that out for me.
All right, but I'm glad I jumped on when I did, because really Scotty just answered that for me. It was more about, I just feel like I need something to throw. I'm just not comfortable with one ad. I mean, it's good. As I said, how many weeks now I haven't had to do anything. It's had, you know, close to $3,000 ad spend, and I haven't had to touch
it. Yeah, as you can scale up, scale across audiences. There's many ways to vary this up, and I went through some bits in the first half of the training today around like having those videos as a part of the sales process to shorten things and stuff like that. So if you get a chance, there might be some value in there if you want to watch it at fast speed or something.
Yeah, I've got a fair bit of time today, so I'll watch that. I'll go through it. Cheers for that. All good.
Beautiful. Well, I think Shauna looks like she's almost fallen asleep on us. But I think that's everything I've got to share. Did you guys have anything last minute that you wanted to go through, or ready to kick into the day?
All good.
Beautiful. All right, guys. Well, good to catch up again. Any questions, obviously, you know where to find us. Otherwise, I'll see you next week back at the normal time. I'll be back on Wednesday.
Cool. Have a good week, man.
Peace out, guys.
Thank you.